we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Good evening, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass, my partner, Captain Mark Wages. And you are on the lifeboat. Thank you for joining us. This is going to be I think this is going to be a fun one. This whole show today, or the concept behind this whole show, because we've done this, good Lord, I don't know how many times. But I got a really funny email that I was reading, and they said, the person that wrote the email said, I found your channel about 2 weeks ago, and they found it through Marf, which was cool. And so far, so good. But it seems to me that you're like a televangelist or a motivational speaker. He said there's really nothing in terms of all you're trying to do is get people to believe that they can quit. There's nothing really, past that. But he doesn't think that I'm doing much. So I said,
sorry, I don't mean to chuckle, but that
it knocked me down. I'm telling you. So I sent back and said, no disrespect at all, man. I appreciate the feedback. I said, how many videos have you watched? And I waited, took about an hour and 20 minutes to get the response back. And he said, almost all of them. In 2 weeks, you got to give a guy credit. No, in case he's watching tonight, the only reason that I had, I asked how many, videos has he seen is because we've done a lot of videos on sort of the nuts and bolts of what it means to start quitting and what it means to stay quitted, right? To never quit quitting. And we've done it so many different ways with so many different thumbnails. We actually put it into steps, did it that way. We talk about the big 3, right? The things that I did. If we had $1 for every time I have said, here's how I did it, well, then we'd be okay, right? Things would be really, really good. But Freedom Fighter, really good to see you. Just one more thing before we, I got a surprise for you here. But before I get to it, Freedom Fighter sent me a text. He's not feeling well. He's under the weather. And I've got the exact same thing, right? On really a different part of the country. And then when I popped on tonight, I saw Tommy Bird, came on and said, man, I'm just sick. I may not be commenting a whole lot. I'm just really not feeling well. I know people all over the fruited plain that are all complaining of the exact same thing. So there's a flu going around right now that is just absolutely brutal.
Yep.
It really is just ugly, ugly stuff. So
we're talking like going through a screen door from 30 feet back. Honestly, that's
not
really,
making contact.
Yeah, man. My daughter had it, and it was bad on her, man. It was really bad, actually.
All righty. Austin, stick around for a minute, bud, because this is going to be a good one, I promise you. Really, this channel is for not only information, but mostly support and a reminder that hope exists. It's really funny that you say that, Tommy, because my first response to him was, dude, if all we did was make people believe that they could quit, then we won the lottery,
Exactly.
right? If we can live up to what you just said, I will leave this planet feeling like I did something, right? Because the vast majority of people who get to that threshold truthfully don't believe they can quit, and they don't believe they could stay quit. Jimmy Pickles, good to see you. So oftentimes you get people that, Leisure, good to see you too. And Charlie, I'm glad you're feeling well. So oftentimes you get people that cash their chips in before they quit. Do you understand what I mean by that? This was me for a very long period of time. Right around the time I was stopping, I'd be on day 2 or day 3. I already knew. Right? I couldn't quit. I was going to make the effort because at the time I had a wife and I had a lot of people breathing down my neck, or I had a boss and he was breathing down my neck. There was always reasons that got me, and I would say all the right things, and in my outwardly I really looked like I wanted to quit, but inside of me was that voice, the automatic negative thoughts, the ants just crawling all over my brain saying, you ain't got a chance, right? You're wasting your time. And yeah, so getting to that feeling that that you can actually believe that it's possible. Boy, I hope we really can make that happen. Before we get rolling tonight, there is we're going to start with a phone call, because as we were hanging out in the green room doing our usual routine, where my bobbleheaded partner and I talk before we go live here on the boat, we already had a call, which is cool, right? We love that. And the funny thing was, I'm not kidding you, I was in the process of talking to Mark about an email I got from this person while this person called, which is always a little creepy. That the serendipity, we get this stuff a lot. Honestly, with Mark and I, this happens all of the time, truthfully. But so we have Heather on the line from Utah. Did we get Heather unmuted?
Yeah, she should be unmuted. You there, Heather?
Sounded like noise, but I don't know that we heard you.
Kind of choppy a little bit. Can you say something else?
Okay, hang on.
That sounds a little better.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit better. Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's a little bit more consistent.
Oh, great. Now I can't hear you guys.
That's
there
okay.
we go.
We're not important.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
that
we
sounds
can.
really good now.
And as long as you're not listening to YouTube as well, you'll hear us through the headphones or the headset. But there's like a 30-second delay, which will confuse the heck out of you if you're listening to us through YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay. We're so happy that you called in, really, and no joke, I really was talking to Mark right before you called. If you could tell everybody on the boat what your plans are, what you said in the email, because I think it's awesome. And if you want to give a little background on where you started and where you are, kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. I've been an addict since I was 11 years old, because I was in a really bad accident. I got addicted to Demerol when I was in the hospital still. And, for a very long time, I didn't touch it. I became a nurse. And it wasn't until a few years after I was working that I really got into trouble, and I just could not quit. I could not get off of it. I've had a lot of mental health issues, just all kinds of stuff. And, I finally went into rehab after so many hospitalizations, and I was there for a good 6 months.
Wow.
And I relapsed once after that, but since then it's been almost 14 years and I've been good.
Congratulations.
But I stayed away from nursing, and I love being a nurse, but just the way things are right now, and because it's a dear friend that I'm helping, I took a private nursing job, and I have to administer narcotics, and that's my favorite thing,
Yeah.
But I also mentioned in the email that I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia in 2017, and I kind of knew that's what I had in 2016. So I've just been learning how to deal with that without any kind of painkillers. I'm using lots of herbs and things. There's a lot of things I've done and learned since then. So I'm starting my own YouTube channel, and I want to help people that are in the same predicament, that have mental health issues, that are dealing with chronic pain and sobriety. And I really want to help, because there's so much I've learned. so much. So that's what I want to do. So I was really hoping I could get you guys on for one of
Sure.
for an hour or so.
Oh yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
Yeah, you name it,
Absolutely.
I'm
We'd love
there.
to.
That's
Yeah, we'd love to. And I love the idea. I really do.
yeah.
I think very often um when we pop out on the other side, it was kind of like what we were talking about yesterday, where we'll use the 12 steps as an example. I didn't use them, but you understand because they're just a great illustration. You work through those first 11 steps, right? And it's constant work, or if you're in rehab, they've got you doing things every day to sort
Yeah.
of to really hammer home your sobriety and really make you understand it. And then you pop out on the after the 11th and it's like, now what? Right.
Yeah.
So the whole giving back thing, I think that a lot of us get into it, even if it's subconsciously, because we know it's going to keep us sober. I mean, that's definitely why I'm here. The lifeboat has been so good for that. I think it's a great idea. I don't think that there can be enough channels like that helping people. I don't think there could be enough.
Especially when you're
Really
educated
don't.
like you are, Heather.
Yeah.
That's you're gonna bring a unique perspective because there's not a whole lot of people out there that's gonna be able to say that, hey, I was fighting an addiction and I kind of, I haven't relapsed over 14 years, but I'm now able to give my patients the things that I used to take. So that's a very unique perspective, I think.
Yeah. No
Well,
question.
I've been a psych nurse as well, so and a psych patient, so I think I can bring a lot, of different perspectives because I've been in a lot of them. But
Right.
but the
Yeah.
thing is, I have to remember, especially now that I'm working with it again, um, I can never let my guard down. You
No.
can't. You cannot get cocky. You cannot think that you're going to be okay. And like I said in my email, it is no coincidence that I found your channel just after I took that job. That's no coincidence at all.
That's
And
awesome.
No.
Thank you
and
for
I
saying that.
really, I am just so impressed with you guys and what you're doing and just the light and the hope it brings. It just, even just for me, I'm sure I'm not the only one. You guys bring a lot of hope, a lot of light, and we need that. You know, we're here for a reason. And, we've been able to get through a lot of, that horrible addiction nonsense. And that the only way to keep it, I think, is to reach your hand out and pull somebody else up now.
No doubt.
I agree with that so much. I mean,
Nope.
there's some people out there that think that, you shouldn't do that because you're putting yourself into a position that might cause you to relapse. And and I've always said this, if your mind is thinking towards that positive part of it, it's okay to be in that situation as long as you can handle it. And who better to help somebody than somebody that has recently been through something?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like getting a new med student. I had if it wasn't for like a med student, I wouldn't be here right now.
Really.
Yeah, I had a bariatric surgery and I just simply couldn't keep anything down. I had a G tube and everything else.
Oh,
And
wow.
and some med student and this guy, my doctor, was third in the nation in bariatric surgeries on the Roux-en-Y surgery that I had done, and this med student come in and fixed me. There was a new test that my doctor wasn't aware of. So
Wow.
it's stuff like that, because he figured out it was my gallbladder and a couple other things from this test. Nothing else was picking up my gallbladder. My gallbladder bladder was bad. It was one of
Wow.
those situations. So I totally agree with people coming in. Even when I worked at the factory, same kind of thing. You get somebody fresh out of training, and they're still kind of jacked up and ready to go, and they're all on that kind of a vibe, and they're teaching you what they just learned. So it's like
Right.
so fresh, and it just comes across really, really good. And so
Yeah.
I applaud you for even the fact that you're even going to
Me
just
too.
have a voice.
No, me too.
That's
And and I think one of the most important things with what we do is that you can sit in a meeting and listen to somebody speak for 4 months, and in the parking lot talking to somebody
Yeah.
that was at the meeting with you, they will say something that will change your life. And every person that popped out on the backside of an ugly addiction and found success will tell you that there was that moment, right? For some people it's a couple of them, but that one part where this person just said this. The more voices out there that are talking, the better a chance we have of people hearing that. There
Yeah.
can't be enough voices. There really can't. And the credibility of having been there and done that. I know that when I was being, sort of when they were attempting to rehabilitate me, and I was doing some prison rehab and all of that. If somebody came in and told me their list of credentials and it didn't have something to do with kicking, right? Like, when did you have to get off this stuff, right? Tell me about your withdrawal, because I just didn't want to hear anything from someone that hadn't been there.
Yep.
Like, it didn't
Yeah.
make any sense to me when they go, "Oh, I know what you're going through." No, you don't. No, you don't have a clue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's instant credibility. I love it, Heather. I think that's awesome, and we would be honored
Yes.
to come on board and do that.
100%.
Oh, that would be awesome, you guys. All right.
And even, we could even have you on as a special guest here at some point and
Sure.
get you on for an interview, and you could tell your story if you wanted to. Here.
I'd love to.
If you wanted to do something like that, or there's just a lot of things we can do, and I think it's important that in this, especially the genre that we're in right here, we've kind of bridged gaps in multiple genres. We really have, and there's a lot of good, positive people around us, and I think it's you're going to fall right into that, and we have to help each other get bigger. And that's
No doubt.
That's exactly what we're doing, and that's how we grow here. That's how I grew over on Wages World. I'm just gonna say it. Ain't nobody on YouTube gonna start from zero without help. They ain't gonna make it.
Yeah.
They just ain't gonna make it, guys.
If they do, it's going to take them 10 years, and you really
Yeah.
got to you really got to sort of be able to keep your nose to the grind wheel kind of thing, and that's not always the easiest thing to do when you're not feeling like you're getting anything done. But no, we'd be happy to do that. And I think what Mark said is probably a really good idea, to do a little bit of both. Because when you get up and running, we can have you on over here, and everybody will get a chance to see what you're doing over there, and hopefully we'll get a whole lot of crossover. That would be the best scenario.
And again, the main thing is just having a voice. I think the conversation has to be there, and those of us out here trying to propagate that is doing a positive thing. Hey, Chi-Chi. Sorry, I didn't mean to break off there for a minute, but Chi-Chi's here.
Good Lord. Chi-Chi. So good to see you.
You probably haven't met her yet, Heather.
Nope, I haven't. But hey,
Chi-Chi was elbowing people to be the first person on the boat. So if she was not first, she was certainly in the first three.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly who made it up the walkway first, but she was definitely in that running.
Okay, let me say something real quick too.
Sure.
Happy birthday, Hunter. SG, tell your son happy birthday. He's not feeling.
He does a great commercial. If you've never seen that kid do a commercial, he's got absolute skill. He's going to be.
He's also not. He's not feeling well either. He's kind of got what we were talking about.
Boy, everybody.
Yeah.
So it really is just terrible right now.
Are you seeing that too, where you're at, Heather?
Oh yeah. In fact, the I'm taking care of an older couple. They're in their 90s, and their daughter had it, and I mean, she's been down for 3 weeks, and it's just rampant through here right now. I had it a few weeks ago. It's not fun.
Wow.
Good Lord, don't tell me this is going to last 3 weeks. Please don't tell me this. I think I can
Well,
do this for 3 weeks.
she's got some health issues that made it worse too, but
I don't want 3 days of this. This has been a bad day health wise. This has just not been fun. I couldn't get out of my
for the older people. I watched my great grandma go through C. diff, and it was.
Lord, I had that too.
It's bad stuff, man.
I had to go. You have to go in. Just like you're doing, radiation or chemotherapy. You got to go with C. Cardiff. I had to go in there twice a day to get IV antibiotics, and I would be doing it in the same place that I was basically doing it in oncology. The people were in there sitting down and getting their stuff, and I was sitting right next to it. C. Cardiff was awful. One of the worst things that.
Ain't that crazy? How something that's supposed to help you, like antibiotics, does that harm to you? I know people probably don't know what we're talking about, but when you take extensive amount of antibiotics at high dose levels, it kills the good bacteria in your bowels.
Everything inside gets toasted.
It's all done, and so what that does is it ruins your digestive tract, and you get really sick. For me, guess what it did to me? it took all of the good bacteria out of my mouth, and I ended up with thrush.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Lovely.
That was horrible. Gosh, that was so horrible. And if you
Yeah,
guys don't know
yeah.
what thrush is, and I know it sounds kind of nasty, but it's a yeast infection in your
Yeah, it is.
in your
It's
mouth.
terrible, and the
Yeah,
stuff that you
it's
got to
horrible.
rinse with to get rid of it is no fun either.
Yep. Yep.
That
No.
happens a lot with that stuff. So now that we have, now that we've hit the high points, right, and got everybody really excited about
Love
tonight's
it.
show.
Love it.
Yeah, Heather, we will absolutely be there. I'm honored. I know Mark feels the same way,
Yes.
so we can't wait.
Yes.
We
Oh,
can't
that
wait.
sounds
And,
awesome.
and the one piece of advice I would give you is this: it's never going to be right. If you wait for it to be right, because I read the email, and
Yeah.
if you wait for all the ducks to be completely in a row, you're just never going to get off the ground. You just got to get out there and
Exactly.
start making some videos, and stuff will get in at the end. And if you're putting out good stuff, everybody will want to see it, and it won't matter about all that other stuff.
And trust your
I agree. I decided last week I was just going to email you guys and just get going on it.
right. Trust your gut. Okay, that's what I tell everybody when you're doing this kind of stuff. Trust your gut. And the biggest piece of advice I could give anybody out there starting a YouTube channel: don't feed the trolls. Just don't even acknowledge they're there.
Schrodinger's troll.
Yep.
If you don't observe them, they don't exist. Just don't observe them.
Yep. You don't want.
All right.
That's some good advice.
Now I promise I will get to this. All righty.
Okay.
And if anyone, thanks so much for the call.
Thanks for
Heather.
calling in, Heather. I appreciate you. We'll
Thank
talk to
you
you
guys.
soon. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And the phone lines are always open, people. So if you ever, great call too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And
How cool is that?
You can call back in and talk about something else too. You ain't got to talk about your channel.
Sure.
You want to talk about what we're talking about?
Anytime. Anytime.
All right. Well, thanks, you guys.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Have a good night.
All righty.
See you in the chat.
Hey, Vicky Brooks.
Okay.
glad to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now I want to get to Austin. I really do. So we could talk about the. Honestly, what I was going to talk about is sort of what goes on in the brain when you're the act of quitting. Austin's last message that I read said, "I'm really concerned about keeping quitting." Apparently, he's a year off of the ugly stuff, and first of all, a year off is amazing, right? If you've fought it that long, like you've white knuckled a year, that is really, really impressive because that's a difficult thing to do. The best thing that I can say, and the thing that I think probably saves more people than anything else, right? I know you've heard us beat this to death. The opposite of addiction is connection. And whether you're connecting with people, what we're doing right now, right? Heather calling in, 14 years sober, now at an occupation that's a little tougher, right? There's dope everywhere. So this is a tough thing for her. But this is now a point of connection, right? Everybody on the lifeboat, those are points of connections. Those are the people, right? You can connect to things. You can connect to places, right? You can connect to hobbies. There are so many things that you can do to engage the brain, because really the problem that you have is, and I mean you, everybody, all of us, the problem that we have is filling up dead space. Plain and simple, right? Downtime will kill you. We did a video on this. Downtime is absolutely the worst thing that can happen to you. Just assume for a hot second that we're correct in our assumption that we all use drugs because we're not quite comfortable who we are, right? Something about us just makes us uncomfortable. And when we sit there in our own skin, we get that feeling that just doesn't feel right. And that feeling is screaming for you to put something else into the brain, right? It wants you to turn on one of those receptors. It would like some dopamine, and it would like it quickly. Please do this now. So it really becomes a question of how fast can you train your brain to start releasing dopamine for other things, right? The system in your body was actually designed to reinforce good habits, right? Whether you believe that God did this, whether you believe this is evolutionary, I don't care. But what it was there to do is ensure that we continued as human beings and that each subsequent generation would also have a shot at it, right? So if we were doing something like working, right, building shelter, doing any of those things, we were going to get a reward for it. because that feel good was going to make sure we did it again the next day. All of that is there to make sure that you can remain healthy by doing things that are good for you. We hijack that system, take it completely off of the rails, and, basically reward ourselves for the dumbest behaviors we could possibly do. Hey, look, a bag of heroin. Reward Tommy. Look at that. What a good guy. He went out and stole something so he could get heroin. Let's give him some dopamine. And then, of course, the heroin gets in your system, and then you get a really big blast of dopamine. And shortly thereafter, you get another small one, because picking up the dope, that's going to be the first dopamine. Literally starts leaking out the receptors. That's why, as an addict, when you're sitting in the parking lot and you're sick as hell, and the person shows up, and the second you get the drug in your hand, you already feel better. If you have if your issue is drinking, the second that the booze touches your lips, right, you taste that taste, and instantly the shakes go away. Well, we know it's going to take 15, 20 minutes for that to get into your system and do anything. So what that is the first blast of dopamine, right? That is your brain saying, now we're good.
Yep.
It's going to be okay, right? Tommy's got some dope. It's going to be okay. And then after you injected it, or after you smoked it or drank it or whatever, you're going to get the reinforcement after that. That's why naltrexone is doing so much wonderful work with people who have alcohol abuse disorder, right? Because it turns off that. That's what it turns off. It turns off the blast of dopamine before you consume and after you consume. It doesn't say to you, you're doing a really good thing. And if you don't get that dopamine saying, you know what, you're really doing a good thing, then the frontal lobe is going to go, this is not a good thing. Okay. This is stupid as hell. We're destroying our life, right? Why the hell would I be doing this? The logic center of the brain. This is why non-addicts can't figure us out, right? The normies, the reason that they can't figure us out is because they view our affliction through their frontal lobe.
Yeah.
Right? For real. They don't view our affliction through, the reward center, a part of our brain that requires absolutely no thought, right? This is the reactive mind. So when they say
looking through a different filter,
a completely different filter, right? I mean, when they say, you must realize that this is really, killing you. You must realize that this is destroying your family, right? Oh yeah, no doubt. But in my brain is a bigger, right, driving force that will make sure that none of those voices get heard. And the second those voices start to get heard, that's when you get ready to do the next one, right? We all do that. Everybody who's an addict does that. All of the guilt from the previous night starts kicking in. Man, I can't believe I relapsed. The hell was I doing, man? I got 7 years sober. And then I go out and I do this, man. It's the stupidest thing in the entire world. And you just sit there and those automatic negative thoughts start crawling all over your brain. And they say, 7 years, it's all gone. It means nothing now. And your brain goes, well, if it means nothing.
yeah, exactly.
Why don't we just do another one today?
Yeah.
Right. And immediately you start to reinforce the feeling of,
Slippery
I don't
slope.
have to feel guilty. Right.
Yep, 100%.
Virginia, thank you so much. Good to see you, Virginia. Virginia is a soldier, right, for this boat. She really is.
Yes, she is.
That is a woman out there every single day trying to reach out and save somebody. I have a very interesting story about that, by the way.
Let's hear it.
I have a very, very interesting story about that. I did not want to go anywhere today because I just don't feel good at all. And I sold a bunch of watches over the weekend, a pretty good weekend. So I had to box all of these things up and get them out to, into the mail. And it's not like dropping them in a mailbox. I have to go up and get a receipt. So I have a tracking number and all of those things. So I pulled back into the post office and I told this story on the lifeboat once before, where I went in there with my partner and he got out of the car and I said, that guy in the truck right there, look at him. He's out. And my partner went up and banged on the glass, right? And it required a lot of effort to get this person's chin off of his chest, right? He was just completely knotted out with, this area here completely folded over, which is always really frightening, right? Because that's your airway and it's not such a good thing. But it was a brown Toyota pickup. And we were able to get this guy breathing and on his way. But it was one of those things that every time that happens, it'll affect you, especially if that was, your drug of choice. It's just, it's a very odd thing, and it really sort of plays with your brain. Not like I want to get high again, but just God, that was me. Like that kind of thing. This was the person I was. It was like that. That will make you just really kind of feel weird. Anyway, brown Toyota truck parked in the exact same place in the exact same parking lot. Again, dog in the car with him. Like, the only difference between this scene and the previous one was I couldn't say, hey, get out there and go bang on his window. Seriously, that dude's in trouble. Go bang on his window. I had to actually pull the car over, get out and do it myself. But the exact same situation. And when he rolled down the window this time, he goes, oh, man, I'm good. I said, dude, you are a far cry from good. You know what I mean? You are not good. And he's like, no, I mean, I'm all right. I'm like, this is the second time, bud. I mean, what are the odds? This is the second time you and I have run into each other because you're knotted out. So I told him about the lifeboat. I assure you he didn't hear a word of it.
Yeah.
Seriously. I
I
think it
chuckle there.
probably figured I called the cops. I'm sure that's, in his head, they were probably on the way.
Yeah. But
He wanted out bad.
Yeah. And guys, when I chuckle like that, it's not because I think something's funny. It's just like, sometimes we see things that we're just like, wow.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
And it's like, and for me, when I see stuff like that, I picture myself back when I was doing stupid stuff. I'm like, did I look like that? Did I used to say those things? You start asking those questions about yourself, because when you're deep in that stuff, what are you doing? You're thinking everybody around you can't see it. And it's like, and you are so blatantly, obviously an addict. It's crazy, because once you get on the other side of it, you see it.
But you talk yourself into the fact that you got everybody snowed.
Exactly. So, I mean, and I think that's if we can finally just open our eyes, and that's what we talk about, opening that window, that crack.
Yeah.
People got to be there. What if that crack in that window was that moment that Tommy jumped out? Maybe maybe just on the off chance he was ready to hear something. And it does happen. Okay? So don't be afraid, guys. Go out there and say something.
The funny thing too is that I handed him a business card.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the business cards that I should have been handing him are not in yet. So I actually handed him a business card from the watch, from my watch company. So I'm sure that when the nod is over and he wakes up needing the next one, he's going to be like, who the hell gave me a business card for watches? Like I need a Rolex, right? With what's going on in my life. The last thing I want to even think about is time. Exactly. But yeah, it was a very, very, very odd thing. So to keep yourself sober, again, we talked about this on yesterday's show, but it bears repeating. Man, this computer drives me nuts.
Get a 1 in the chat for Lisa, 146 days sober. What's that?
Awesome, Lisa.
Yep. 1's in the chat, guys. That's awesome.
Yep, I love it. I absolutely love it. That is just the coolest. No joke, the coolest.
Thank you, Sabbath. Appreciate you, bud. What do you call a rabbit with lice? Bugs Bunny. You're getting better and better, man. I have to say.
Yeah, that's actually pretty funny. Although the one that he did about Roman numerals the other day is the funniest one that I've heard in a really long time.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that one killed me. So yesterday we talked about this, and it bears repeating. There really is a reason that the 12th step to AA is all about helping other people. Now, this may sound like psychobabble or, hippie love stuff. I'm talking about your brain hooked up to a machine taking images, right? You can literally take images of a person's mind while they're doing things. And the act of kindness towards towards another is servitude in any way does more in your brain to release drugs. We can call them whatever we want, right? Again, you got to think about this. And I know that this doesn't make a lot of sense because it really doesn't. We're drug addicts, right? And so our whole life we go, well, that's heroin, right? Or that's methamphetamine. That's this. All of these things do this. No, they don't. The drug that gets you high is waiting in your brain.
Yep.
You understand that, right? The drug that's getting you high is not the heroin. The heroin is just going to make that drug come out. It's already in your brain waiting to do exactly what it's going to do, right? Heroin just happens to let a lot of dopamine into your brain, way too much, right? And it has that effect of just, knocking you out. But it's not that substance. There's nothing in there that makes you, it's your brain. So why is that important? Think about it. It's important because there are a lot of ways to turn that crap on, right? Without having to buy a substance, stick a needle in your arm, do whatever. As an example, and it's a very extreme example, but it's my favorite to use because anytime you take anything to the ridiculous, right, it usually makes things easier to wrap your brain around. So if you've ever jumped out of an airplane, right, and I have done this, but if you've ever jumped out of an airplane, you want to talk about drugs in your brain, right? You want to talk about, your body. We all know fight or flight, right? Okay. So you're either getting ready to swing at somebody or you're getting ready to run. Okay. Well, that's a very uncomfortable feeling, right? We've all been there where you get the butterflies in your stomach and all that. You jump out of an airplane and it's a different adrenaline, right? There's nothing uncomfortable about the feeling. You would think it was, but the second you jump out of that plane, all of the chemicals that start rushing through your brain, every drug your brain can possibly drop, it does. And I swear to you, it was, my brother says, how about it? I'm talking about the first time we did it, we were in a place called Beeville, Texas. And I bet you for 5 or 6 days, right? This was advanced free fall. So we jumped out with a person on each side and then they leave, right? And you have to pull your ripcord, and deploy the canopy and sail down on your own like it's you. And it was just one of those experiences that, boy, if you just don't believe it, there are so many things that you can do. Now, I'm not saying that, the way to remain sober is to go hop out of an airplane, but it ain't a bad idea, for real. Like if you pick up any new hobby, there are some people on the boat that are doing archery. I think that's wild. I really do. And this individual chose it because he said, you know what? I honestly always wanted to mess with that. Well, then why aren't you doing it? Right? Why aren't you doing it? If you've always wanted to, go do it. Take a course, do whatever. And I said, how was it? And just when you hear this person talk about it, right? The voice changes, right? Everything. Yeah, because the brain is already pumping chemicals in. Even the act of talking about what you did, right, will change the chemicals that are getting released in your brain. The question isn't, what do I have to do to remain sober? The question is, how do I master the drugs that are already in my brain? How can I learn to control the drugs that are in my brain? And if that sounds silly to you, people, last night at the start of this show, I looked over at my bobble-headed partner like this. I said, you do not know the day that I just had, man.
Yeah.
Like, you just cannot imagine the day that I just had. At the end of that, I skipped out of this room, right? And I was good for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
Honestly, my brother eats peppers for it. There are so many different ways to get that to happen, right? Johnny burns the ever-loving hell out of himself. I just come here and talk to you people,
Exactly.
And I promise you, when Heather says, I'm thinking of starting a channel, good God, please, right? Do it.
Yeah.
Right?
For
Do
real.
it. There are two mentalities, and this Stephanie, good to see you. This goes across everything, right? I'm not just talking about sobriety. I'm not talking about YouTube. You could apply this to anything, right? Money, but there's two concepts, and one is the concept of scarcity, right? There's just not enough to go around. There's not enough sobriety to go around, right? So I'm going to guard it and I'm going to keep it right here for me, because if I give this to somebody else, right, maybe something will. That mindset destroys people as entrepreneurs because they believe that, you know what, it's a zero-sum game. There's not enough cash out there for everybody to actually go out and make money. Well, that's horse crap. It is. It's absolute horse crap. And it's the same way on YouTube. Like, I honestly know creators who think that every time somebody starts a channel, they're like, oh, that's great, right? Now I got those people competing with. If you really believe that there just aren't enough people out there to get on, enough channels, not only are you nuts, right? But we're talking about 60,000, right? I think it's 60,000 channels a day that are going up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Heather's going to threaten us.
What is it? 56 million channels or something like that?
I think we're at 57.
57 now?
Yeah, I think we're at 57 million channels out there on YouTube. And you know what? The best possible case scenario is more people doing what we're doing, right? Because the concept is great, but there are people out there that I'm going to rub the wrong way. There are people out there that Mark's going to rub the wrong way. There are people out there that aren't going to want to hear a man. It's legit. There are people out there that just don't want to hear this from a guy, and God bless them. I hope that there's somebody to fill that need. So if you've ever thought to yourself, boy, I'd love to start a channel, I just wouldn't want to bum out, Mark or Tommy. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Go ahead and fire that thing up, and we'll do a big interview and tell everybody that you're starting the channel, because that's the best case scenario. This isn't about anything other than helping people. It never has been, and it never will be.
100%, man.
Mark, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. I'm getting ready to say. I got you in here, I think. Sorry. I had something in my mouth.
That's all right.
Apologize.
No, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, you're okay.
If you don't interrupt, you'll be in deep trouble.
Yeah. When Tommy and I get to talking, you know how it is, man. You gotta plow in there.
Dude,
well, no, you got a lot of good things to say, so I didn't want to interrupt a thought.
Yeah, well, that's very kind.
Before you go on, Vicky, just hold on one second. Christopher, I posted the number in the chat. Okay, if the one in the pinned comment was not working for you, here it is again.
Mark.
Yeah.
Tell him to go into the HTTP, the one in the chat, the 360, whatever that is. It don't work.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I tried to go into the 360. It won't take you anywhere. You got to hit the HTTP.
Absolutely no idea what any of
Well, I went and I just got the number right off of Zoom. But yeah, okay. No, if you want to, if you can use the link too. That's what she's saying. You can click on the Zoom link. Yeah.
That works better.
Yeah, it does. I would agree.
Did you get that, Johnny? Huh? All right. Sorry.
So what's up,
Just
Vicky?
saying.
How are you?
Vicky, how are you?
Oh, well, I'm a little under the weather, but I live 2 blocks from a grain elevator, and we're doing 24/7 unloading semis of corn. So who knows if it's corn dust or whatever. It don't really matter at this point. Sick is sick. So
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
I'm not that bad, really. I have a question though, and this is something that has bothered me for a while, and I was hoping that one of you can help me with this.
Okay.
I started smoking when I was 16. I have quit on and off for like 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, and that is the ultimate definition of insanity, is why you would start again. So I'm really not all that smart. But now that I'm 71, is my brain totally function now for nicotine? Do you think?
Sadly,
I know that's a big question.
It's
a legit question.
So how old were you when you started?
16, right after I had my appendix out. Now that's a big desire to want to smoke if you're choking on stitches.
Sure. No, I can see that. I just had my appendix out. I need a lucky strike. No,
that's about right. No, they were Marlboros, but that's okay.
When Marlboros came out, most people don't know this. When Marlboros came out, that was actually supposed to be a woman's cigarette.
Yep.
And then over time they changed the marketing, but that was a woman's cigarette to start with. Truth be told, this can happen. It really can. And the one that I've spent a lot of time reading about, because it's very, very personal to me, is the opiate disorders. And as opposed to just addiction, when it becomes an opiate use disorder, really what's happening is you kind of have damaged the receptors, and you've damaged them in such a way that it definitely makes the road in front of you more difficult.
Here's what I would say to that. Your neural pathways have to rebuild. Your brain can heal, but they heal so slow, Vicky. It is ungodly how slow they
Well, everything heals slow at the age of 71.
I mean,
but
I
there's
think
that.
What is it, Tommy? Is it one?
I mean, I know this,
Well, I think.
and you're not offending me.
Well, what 1 millimeter every 6 months or something?
Yeah, every 6 months. It's
it's
really,
it's really slow.
painfully slow.
Well, that's why I chew Nicorette gum when I quit.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Honestly,
Because-
have you ever tried any? And is that the only one you've tried?
Well, here's the deal. I have so many allergies. I would use the patch. The patch worked great the first time I used it, but I'm allergic to the sticky stuff. And so I had huge welts for weeks.
Wow.
Huge. And so the doctor said, you can't use the patch, use the gum. So the gum is tremendously expensive. If you use a knockoff brand, you use more than the regular Nicorette.
Right.
But
Very expensive.
The Nicorette or any nicotine gum actually works pretty good. But I'll be honest with you. I have to be on like the lifetime plan almost. I mean, this goes on for like 6 months.
Nothing wrong with
at
that.
least.
Nothing wrong with that. If you had to chew nicotine gum for the rest of the time that you were on this planet, certainly would be a better trade-off, right? Would you be trading one drug for another? No, you'd be trading one delivery method for another. Because
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There's another option there too that nobody's talked about, and this helped my son quit smoking. Pouches. They got mint pouches now that you can get.
They have them in every flavor under the sun,
Yep.
and they're no longer have any
Tobacco
actual tobacco in them. So don't think chewing tobacco when we say pouches, because this is not a tobacco product. It is just it's just a flavored pouch with nicotine in it. And
Looks
the
like
nice thing about those pouches is that as a cessation tool, they're incrementally getting larger or smaller depending on how you look at it, in like 0.5 milligram or whatever increments, or 1/4 milligram increments. So you could take the strongest one in there and you could sort of back yourself down to where you're not taking as much nicotine. But if you had to do it for the rest of your life, I don't know that that's as awful a thing as setting something on fire and breathing it into your lungs for the rest of the time.
Well, actually, what is smoking other than burning up your cash, literally? So
do you have a problem with the ritual? Do you know what I mean?
See, that's the other thing. Going back to the beginning of time for me, I weaned myself off the baby bottle at 6 months we don't need to go into the reason. Okay.
Right.
And then I started sucking my thumb, and then I started overeating. And so this is a hand to mouth thing as well. So
that's a very real thing though, Vicky. It really truly is. That's a hard
well,
thing.
it is. So smoking is not just the nicotine. It is the hand. It isn't just the hand thing. I can crochet or do anything with my hands, but my mouth has to be going as well. Unfortunately for those who get on the phone with me, but so
you kill me, girl. I love it.
Well, I'm kind of sassy, but anyway, so
kinda.
Anyway, as Tommy and I have talked about the candy corn thing, do you really want to go there? So anyway, I know people. Anyhow, so
there you go.
Anyhow, so I chew the gum to stop the mouth thing, because literally I sucked my thumb until I was 10 years old. That is outrageous. And the only reason I quit was because I could not have a bicycle of my own unless I quit sucking my thumb. So I did this on my own. I have tremendous willpower, but then I just started eating. I just trade off.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's
and so there's addictions and then there's addictions. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm any different than anybody. I would guess that probably at least 50 to 60% of us have some form of a base for whatever addiction we're doing, unfortunately.
Right.
And we need to find some sort of healthy substitute. You're right. Going outside and going for a walk does produce the dopamine. When I was in my 30s and I quit smoking, before I had smoked so many years, it worked. It was great. But now I'm 71 and it's a whole
It makes
different
it a little tougher.
story.
Yeah. Are you familiar with have you ever heard of something called a nicotine inhaler? It looks,
Yes.
it kind of looks like a cigarette. It's a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
But you never
I've never
light it.
used it.
You never light it. And you also don't, it's not a vape, right? It's not a vape product. It's basically just a really fine, almost like an asthma inhaler would be. But
So does it have the tar nicotine in it?
No.
Does it have-
all it has in there is nicotine and also flavor that they put in there, and that can be regulated so that they taper that down as well. Summer, good to see you. We're glad you're here.
Something else,
but
Vicky, you can
for
try.
people that for a really long time, as long as you've been doing it, and we've talked about this on other shows, the rituals that we go through, that's one of the reasons that there are certain drug habits are harder to quit than others. If you take a pill and you throw it back and you swallow it, there's not nearly the ritual that there would be of breaking up weed, right? Putting it in a paper, rolling it up, right? There's all of this stuff that tends to go along with whatever your drug habit is. The people that inject carry little kits, right? And they take out their little kit and they zip it, and right, they go through that whole ritual. Well, cigarettes are the same way. I'm be willing to bet that the hardest time is right after you're done eating, right? There are just certain times that right after you do this or right before you do that, we just become so programmed that we're like Pavlov's dog, but for whatever our habit is. I've told the story before, but there was a bridge I couldn't drive over, right? I'm not kidding you. I had
understand.
2 drug dealers on the other side of the bridge, right? There was one on either side in condos. And if I drove across that bridge, I would have to pull over at the first restaurant and use the restroom because my body would instantly go, oh, I know what we're doing. And I would, it would make me need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, and something else I want to suggest there a little bit, Vicky, too, is something I used to do when I was a kid, and it kind of will give you some sort of emotion, taking a cigarette in and out of your mouth. We used to soak toothpicks in like mint or cinnamon oil.
Okay.
And you can put that, you just leave it in your mouth all day. It's got flavor, and you can take it out,
right.
do whatever you're doing with it. So, but yeah.
Well, those are good. Those are all good ideas. But like I said, I just, I appreciate all your compliments and all that, but I am the very definition of insanity is like, okay, if it really, when I had one cigarette after 6 years thinking that I would never start again. And then I did. And then I repeated that performance, another 2 or 3 times. That's insanity. So,
but you don't think that's unique by any stretch, do you? There are
well, I know that
3,299 people on this boat that have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, okay, so
Every one of us
anyway,
here
Yeah.
has done that
it's
with
like,
something,
really,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we get you. And that's
I talked myself into the fact that I could regulate heroin. Yeah, I'll just shoot it a couple of
well,
days.
I
later.
can't
No problem.
regulate nicotine. I can't regulate it. I'm either going to be chewing gum or smoking cigarettes. And to be quite frank with you, I'm tired of my clothes smelling like a dirty ashtray. Really.
There's something to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is.
I got to read this comment because I love this. Hold on one second.
Austin's. Yeah.
This is a great comment. Zen Wen says, I used to be an avid reader, right? Let me see where it just went shooting up on me as soon as always happens. I used to be an avid reader and I used to smoke at night and read before I went to bed. And then I quit smoking for 2 years and I had to quit reading because it was a constant reminder of what I had quit. And there really is something to this.
Well, there
ritual
is.
becomes so ingrained. I love that comment. Austin also said, I love how the lifeboat can jump completely off the rails and still tie the
and still
tie
on
the subject
point.
back in.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just like my life.
I can really whatever. So
No, you didn't-
the other thing that
I think what he was saying was that the conversation still was revolving around addiction.
well,
and
it
recovery.
is. It is.
And
Absolutely.
The other
And how do we-
thing
and how do we
that,
stay quit?
I wanted to I haven't been on the lifeboat the last couple times, and I just wanted to say why. It isn't that I didn't care. I do, but there were a couple of the reasons why I didn't. They were really big triggers for me.
Okay.
I still
That's
have
legit.
huge problems with anxiety, huge.
Yeah.
And something really absolutely horrible was brought in right in my face 3 weeks ago. And either Tommy or Mark, I'm going to have to talk to one of you about it.
Yeah.
Because I can't talk to anybody around here about it at all. I can't. It has to be kept.
Gotcha.
I got you.
Hit us up.
It has to be kept out of the know around here. It has to.
Gotcha.
Got you.
And it cannot even go into the doctor's offices around here because I don't trust them. So
May not be such a bad idea anyway.
Yeah.
right, but it had to do with the ability to. I made a comment that you have to be able to forgive and let go. And I may talk great, but that's a tough mountain for me to climb.
You're not alone.
And
Carol, thank you so
I know
much.
what to do, but doing it is a whole other story. So I'm going to let everybody go right now. You've answered my questions about, at the age of 71, is that kind of a tough thing to get off of?
Yes,
It's going to be a very tough thing to get
most
off.
certainly
It's
is.
going to be a very tough thing to get
Yes.
off. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but
Yeah.
if yeah, you know what? I'll finish up. Listen, thank you so much for calling in, Vicki, and you have my email address. So reach out to us, myself or Mark, and we'll talk to you about that. And it will never leave us. I promise you. We're
And,
good.
Oh, I know it won't. I'm not worried about you guys. I just,
Right.
Yeah.
this
We
is
get it.
just,
We get it.
and I
Sure.
love each and every one of you. I really, really do. And if I'm not there, it's just because I don't
I'll
want to
just
cause
track you
problems.
down on some other platform. There's no getting away from us. We know
Yeah.
we know where you go.
That's
We'll
true.
just follow
And
you
the
to another
candy
channel.
corn. And
That's
the candy
right.
corn.
Oh,
And
Brittany has
Mark,
eyes.
Yeah. What's
Mark,
up?
Brittany, good to see you.
What's
Mark,
up?
I love you.
I love you too.
I'm always proud of my kids, Mark.
That's right. That's my internet mom. Got to understand that, guys.
I love it.
Yep.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Talk to you later.
See
Bye bye.
see
You
you,
have to
Vicky.
hang up, Mark, because I'm not smart
Okay.
enough to do this.
I got you. I got you. Whoever else is on the phone, we'll have to get you in next time first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it
No,
wasn't.
it is what it is.
They popped in really late, so just so you know.
Brittany has eyes. I am so glad you're here, Brittany. It's always nice to see you. So let me wrap up this real quickly because you know something? Here's the thing. If there are drugs that we take for such a long period of time that the mountain in front of us that we have to climb in order to quit them becomes, really a tough climb, right? And there's a reason for things like medical assisted treatment. Well, very similar with, there are nicotine cessation devices. There is a drug called Wellbutrin that is manufactured under another name, which is Zyban, exact same drug, right? Just a different milligram. And that has really shown a lot of promise in terms of helping people quit smoking. For whatever reason, triggers the right part of the brain to make that a little easier. And I would take every single thing that would be available to me if I was trying to get off that, because from just the health standpoint, look, if you have to do nicotine the rest of your life, okay, but you don't have to smoke, right? Honestly. And once you get to the point where the ritual's gone, it's going to be a lot less fun. It's just a fact, right? The ritual is such a huge part of what we do, right? That if you take that away, it really does change the entire process, so to speak.
I want to back up a little bit too, just for a second before we end the show. Thank you, Carol, for your super chat earlier. I know Tommy said thank you, but I just wanted to make sure you heard what we were saying there. We really appreciate you doing that. That's awesome. And it was a sticker, super sticker. Keep it up.
Super sticker.
Oh, and she got the weightlifting thing there too. I can't remember who said it, but said that working out is a very key thing for people that are in recovery, and it is.
You betcha.
Yep.
You bet it is. It's one of the absolute easiest ways to start getting your brain to start dumping really good drug chemicals into the gray matter without having to use an illicit substance. I mean, one of the fastest ways that you can do it is working out. And the extreme workouts, stuff like pump and iron, obviously, the more that you're exercising or the more that you're pushing, very often the more of the chemical you're going to get. People that do a lot of running,
Runner's
Heather
high.
mentioned her email that she said between God, the lifeboat, and running, I think I'm going to be able to pull through. Add a channel to that. Add your channel to that, and I think that might just be the perfect storm, so to speak.
Exactly.
All righty.
But yeah, we are at
By the
stop,
way,
guys.
Stephanie, I also took that for depression. It did wonders for me. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to everybody for hanging in here with us. You know, like Austin said, even though we kind of went off the rails a little bit, we stayed on the track, and that's what we do. You know, we've always said if the chat wants to go a different direction, that's what we do, ain't it, Tommy? I mean, that's just what we do.
My favorite shows are when the show gets hijacked.
Yep.
Because when it does, it's because there are people that need to talk about things, and that's why we're here, right?
Yep.
They're never ever anything better than that. I got one I got to answer because it's kind of relevant to everything we were just talking about, which means, of course, finding it will be very difficult. Tommy Bird says, "Well, Butrin made me feel like an actual robot. It was so strange." He laughs. He says, "What a trip. Minus any emotional response." The reason that I wanted to read that, because in the exact same chat are people saying, "Worked great for me."
Yep.
Right? So the brain is such a complex thing. And we say this all the time. If by some chance you go in and you talk to a doctor and they say, you know, "I'd like you to try this," right? And you get on that and you go, "Man, I'm never taking an SSRI again as long as I live," right? That was awful. People, there are so many different approaches. You cannot, it's not a one size fits all. Yep. Austin, he says, "Good night, everyone. I love you all. Thank you for being here every night." Yep. Even if I can make it, hold on. It keeps me grounded and praying for everyone that needs it. You know what? And feel free to send us an email, man. I'd love to talk to you one-on-one. I really would. So reach out and drop an email. Our emails are always in the drop box.
Yep. And guys, it's always keep in mind to pray for everybody and to, love, good thoughts, whatever you do, please do that. There's a lot of people here that are fighting really, really big problems that, it would take shows and shows to explain. But it's not just addiction problem. It's, real, bad health issues and things like that.
Yeah.
We're here for that too, guys. We're here just to, we used to say at the beginning when we started all this that, we're here to make, try to live our best life. And that is what we're doing, but we are concentrating on recovery. But at the same time, we know that in order to stay in recovery, you got to figure out a way to live a good life. And if you don't, you're not going to stay in recovery. So it all plays together. And so I appreciate anybody in there doing prayers, love, sending good thoughts, whatever you do. I really truly think it helps. I honestly do.
There's not a doubt in my mind. There's not a doubt in my mind.
But yeah.
Thank you, Brittany. It really means a lot. Stephanie, I absolutely love it. Okay, people, we're going to call it a night. You know why? Because if I don't do it quick, the cat will jump out of the basket. For real. She signs up for 1 hour. If I go any longer, she's like, "I'm off the clock. I'm gone." Very temperamental.
She's working by the hour, huh? She ain't working.
Yeah, she's by the hour. Yep. Barely gets in time and then gone. All righty, people. We will be back tomorrow night. And you know what? I hope we get hijacked. I hope that you all take this in a different direction. Summer, prayers for you. Linda, prayers for you as well.
Yes.
And people, everybody, those are the two people that could use our prayers. Please. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages. Captain Mark Wages. Sorry.
Sorry. We'll
sorry.
People, don't worry about it. And this is a squirrel in a basket. Good night, everybody.